So this first slide is the result of much hand-wringing and anguish on the part of my senior art directors. Choosing a typeface, it seems choosing a typeface for your design Indaba slides is not a decision taken lightly in the studio. And they said that on this decision alone, my talk could live or die. So, anyway, we decided to go with Noisette. Can't even pronounce my own typeface. Hope you like it. I thought it would be slightly bigger. I thought it was supposed to be strident, like hello, and it's kind of hello. Anyway, that kind of wraps up the designy portion of my talk, because I'm an ad guy. I love Design Indaba. Design Indaba has an air of wonderful possibility around it. And I always walk away kind of spaced out with amazement at this bunch of people who kind of construct the entire world around us and manage to deliver beauty and inspiration in everyday things. Good design has permanence and value, and it adds to the world, and it makes the world a much better place. Unlike advertising, which is what I do, which for the most part is very temporary and transient and largely ugly, and fails mostly to have an effect beyond the next sales quarter. But the other reason we should all love Design Indaba, the other reason I love Design Indaba, is for the next 3 days, there's very little chance anyone is going to stand up here and tell you the 10 things you need to do to make your social media strategy succeed. No one, hopefully no one, is going to talk about the importance of content, and no one's going to mention the words big data. Okay. I realize I'm distinctly handicapped by the fact that I don't have a sexy accent. So for years I've watched on this stage as kind of really witty and mostly attractive designers from places like Copenhagen have showed off like really cool toasters and typefaces and wallpaper designed by the gnawing of rats. It's true, it's true. So, the front, you remember front? They did the vase that was made by a snake as well. So I'm an ad guy from Woodstock, and for the past 6 years, I've been part of something that's had a really large impact on my life. It's probably the best thing that's happened to me in my career, which spans about 20 years. And Ravi asked me very kindly to come here today and speak about that. So what I'm going to do is just really show you 3 or 4 pieces of work that we've done and tell you the stories behind the work. So I'm going to start at the beginning and kind of work forward. This is me in London in 1971 in my cowboy outfit that I got for my birthday. I wore this outfit for a large part of 1971. This is, of course, largely an impractical dream on my part, there being very few ranches or cows in central London. And I was at a convent school at the time and was being policed and taught by extremely stern and humorless nuns who were very unsupportive of my career choice. But I think that, you know, jokes aside, that it's something that tends to happen to children. They kind of go to school and they have their dreams sort of brutally scooped out of them to make space for the 9 times table. And I found this Picasso quote. You probably know it. It's oft quoted. You know, I think that we kind of live in a world where writing stories and drawing pictures and singing and dancing are really cool for children, but they're largely frowned upon as you get older. And we are expected, as we get older, to do something kind of practical and real. And this is obviously something that Ken Robinson spoke about in his brilliant and oft-viewed TED Talk. Is, you know, we live in a world that boils down far too much to very obvious functionality, to maths and physics and science. And most of you in this audience are unique in that you make a living from creativity. You have survived an education system in a wider world which constantly tells you can't tell stories or draw pictures or commit acts of fancy or wonder for a living. So that's what I think of those people. So here we all are, one big kind of collective anomaly. We sit here largely defiant of the expectations of the wider world, which is great. And I luckily stumbled on an industry where I'm allowed to tell stories for a living. And now I'm a creative director, so that means I get to listen to other people's stories all day and tell them whether I like them or not, which results in people talking behind my back a lot about what they think of me. And as I said, for the last 5 or 6 years, I've had this really cool experience working in this building down the road in Woodstock. And the building itself is really, really important for what we've done. And it's become increasing. We didn't do this intentionally. We like to act now as if we built this to kind of create the results that it got. But it's become increasingly apparent to all of us working there and to the people that visit us that it's played a really large part in our story. It's a very old building, and we kind of scooped out the middle and filled it with these crisscrossy staircases and landings, and it's really loud. So if someone celebrates, or someone has an idea, or someone laughs, or someone's talking about something funny, or someone's found something on the internet, you hear it. And you cross paths all day with people who you don't really ordinarily work with. And that kind of leads to conversations that normally wouldn't happen. And you kind of get these accidental meetings and collaborations and conversations. And that's really important for the work that we've done, because the work that we've done involves massive amounts of collaboration. And I think that collaboration between creative people is often something that you really have to force and encourage. I think creative people are independent by nature. I think that they're very territorial, and sometimes they're quite precious. So the monsters that I talk about here are kind of the holy grail of advertising agencies at the moment. These kind of big, seamless, multidisciplinary, integrated ideas or projects. And we decided that we were going to kind of make that our thing. All sorts of people kind of working together, firing ideas at each other, arguing a lot, and finally coming up with a story that people can actually play with and be in. And that's very different to what we used to do, especially us as an agency, which was just kind of projecting something at the audience, holding it up for kind of their passive appreciation and perusal. Like, do you like my joke on the television? Do you? Yeah. So in 2007, I went to a coffee shop, this coffee shop in Loop Street, and our MD had left and gone to Australia, and I had a meeting with the guy who was going to be my new partner, my new MD, and his name was Gavin Levinson, and he was kind of totally unlike any previous business partner that I'd ever had. He was like really brave and spiky and smart, and I've written here, he was like the secret love child of Speedy Gonzalez, Jerry Seinfeld, and Woody Allen. So there we go. I mean, the crucial thing about him, and what really impressed me about him, was that he loved the work. He loved the numbers too, but he really understood the work, and he had this kind of lexicon of great advertising in his head. And he wasn't just pretending to be passionate. He really wanted to make good advertising. Gavin was in fact supposed to be with me here today, but such is his fear of public speaking that he emigrated to Australia, so it's just me. True. So we were really young to be doing what we were doing. We were really inexperienced. We were incredibly anxious, terrified of failure, and we were being asked to turn around this really big, established ad agency, which was struggling at the time. And at the time, the agency really wasn't doing very well creatively. We were okay, and you used to look at the work and go, "It's okay, it's okay." But when when you're looking at your stuff and you're saying it's okay, then that normally means it's not okay. And business, quite frankly, wasn't great either. It was the beginning of 2008, and the bottom kind of fell out of the world, if anyone remembers that. And at the same time, the agency lost 2 or 3 of our biggest clients, not because of us, but we blamed ourselves at the time. And we found ourselves, instead of building something, handling a restructure and sitting in front of people and telling them that they didn't have jobs anymore, which is the most stressful thing you will ever have to do if you ever have to do it. So, the greatest fear of any creative enterprise, of any enterprise for that matter, is failure. And I guess we had an advantage because we failed before we even started, which was just fantastic. So we had this plan, and this is kind of a summary of our plan at the time. It's a very desperate plan. And we went through what we started to describe, or in hindsight, I suppose, we described as a creative destruction. We kind of were able to completely reinvent ourselves, and it was a little bit like life after the Big Bang. And it's really difficult to describe how difficult this was and how stressful it was for us. We weren't running a sort of fiercely independent little hot shop where we could do whatever we liked. This is a big company answerable to shareholders, and way off in the distance, there was a very large and fierce and extremely demanding international holding company. Damn, I really wanted to time that slide right, because that's the big, demanding, fierce international holding company. I worked terribly hard to get a Star Wars reference somewhere in my talk, and I finally... So, starting from nothing gives you kind of a simple and innocent humility and a willingness to learn. And I think it also increases your intensity, and you tend to be a little bit more agile and move a little bit more quickly. So we went back to school, and there was a lot of new media stuff coming out, and there was multi-platform storytelling coming out. And we were seeing these stories being told in new ways around the world, using integration and new media and like very active participation on the part of the audience. So I think that the plan was always to become one of those agencies. It was very conscious, very cosmetic. And I'm very surprised that it worked. We started inside the agency, we started a digital marketing academy. So we kind of sent all 350 people in the agency back to school. We learned about this stuff. We made sure we were very conversant in the ways of the web and new kind of video content. We see, there we go, content. But I think that having these very ambitious ideas about integration is one thing, and I think that selling them to clients and executing them is quite another. And you kind of have to keep your clients very calm and very excited at the same time about these things, because they take a long time, and they're really expensive, and sometimes they don't work out the way you want them to work out. They're very iterative. So the first project that we really got our teeth into was the City Golf. City Golf, as those of you from South Africa will know the City Golf, but those of you that aren't from South Africa won't know that the City Golf is the best-selling car in the history of South Africa. So a long, long time ago, now, 35 years ago, an art director called Jenny Button decided to take what was essentially an old Mark I Golf and give it a nifty paint job and then remarket it as a car called the City Golf. And for 20 years, the Mark I Golf outsold every single car in South Africa. It was a genius of packaging, probably the best advertising idea that anyone's ever had in South Africa. And it made billions and billions of rand for Volkswagen. But I think that there's only a limited amount of time you can convince people to buy a 25-year-old car, and we realized after a while that the time was up. So we got this brief, which was to say goodbye to the city. And the client said, well, there've been so many City Golf commercials, so just do like a greatest hits compilation of all the commercials, and then we'll put a logo on the end, and we'll say goodbye, and that'll be it. And we thought that that was kind of lame. So we did what we all do, which is we ignored the brief. And I think it's okay, you know, as long as you focus on what you're supposed to do, which was say goodbye to the car, which struck us that it's been part of everybody's life at one stage or another. A lot of people, it was their first car. And we were kind of thinking, if they're going to make the car, if they're going to stop making the car, they're probably going to make a last one. A last car is going to roll off the line, and that's kind of special. And there was something sentimental and sad and lovely about the fact that there would be a last one that rolled off the line. So we went to speak to the clients, and they said, yes, there is a last one. And really, that's kind of what became the idea. So I'm going to show you a little shortened case study.
In the 1980s, South Africa fell in love with a car. It was most South Africans' first car. Road trips were taken in it, babies were born in it, babies were made in it. It was even more popular than the Beetle. It was the Volkswagen City, and over the next 25 years, it became the best-selling car in our history. When Volkswagen announced that the City would be discontinued, people were sad, very sad. We needed a way to say goodbye. So we took the last City ever made, and we set out on a very special journey around South Africa, giving the whole nation a chance to say goodbye to the car and sign it like a big farewell card. The idea captured the imagination of the entire country.
Is now retiring.
To the most loved hatchback in our history.
To bid farewell to City by signing the vehicle.
There are City lovers turned up in their numbers. I'm signing my name on the bonnet.
To say goodbye. Those with fond memories of the little car can sign it and perhaps get a bit of closure.
And the number of calls we took, we couldn't get through all of them, but the number of you who said, for sure, we're going to be there, we will sign.
People followed the whole journey live from our website. It had daily videos from the road, photos, and daily diary entries. And at the end of our journey around South Africa, we parked the last City in the Volkswagen Museum in Uitenhage, where it will stand forever, covered with South Africa's goodbye messages. The results of the campaign were record-breaking. And when it was all over, we took the memories from our epic road trip and made a commercial for national television. In its lifetime, City had been the best-selling car in South Africa. Now, in its retirement, it had created one of the most successful run-out campaigns ever.
Today I'm gonna fade away.
So that was kind of really the beginning of this thing for us, with digital and real world and film and events all smashing together in one big single project. And we really, when we went into this, we really didn't know how we were going to do it, and we shoved a creative team onto the job, and they literally had to work 20 hours a day editing, updating social feeds, making sure the events ran correctly. So, but it was a massive learning curve for us. And the biggest thing was our clients. Our clients, specifically on Volkswagen, but our other clients started getting really excited about it. And we started feeling brave and kind of full of possibility, which is absolutely the best way to feel. And I think that the feeling of possibility in any creative enterprise, but obviously especially an ad agency, which is where I work, is incredibly important. It fuels your enthusiasm, but it kind of has this amazing way of killing your fear of the unknown. So we really wanted to create a workplace where anyone on any given day can walk into work and have an idea that can change everything. I mean, that's just the ultimate goal for us as an agency. And that's the blank check you've got to give every single creative person who works in your studio and every single person who works in your agency. I'm going to kind of go off on a weird tangent. This is a book by a guy called David Eggers, it's a particularly beautiful book because it begins on the cover of the book. I'm going to skip because you're going to start trying to read it. But the book is called You Shall Know Our Velocity, which is like the supersonically good title, probably something we should have tattooed on our forearms. But in the... Oh, that was weird. In the book is about these two characters who travel the world extremely fast. And they go swimming in a lake, and they meet this kind of weird, spaced-out French lady in this lake. And she talks to them about her kind of life philosophy. And what she says is that we often we get caught up in process. We're always in transit, and we're always kind of on our way to doing something, making plans, worrying about what comes next. Kind of like what John Lennon said about life's what happens when you're making other plans. And she says what this does is it destroys the potential of any given moment. You're always kind of moving through something as opposed to kind of grounding yourself and thinking, what is possible? And she says that we should rather see every single situation, every scene that confronts us in our day as a staging ground. She uses this word, staging grounds, for something magnificent, something with potential. And I think what that does is all of a sudden it opens us up to this constant and hugely powerful possibility all the time, to be able to consider what the true potential of every moment is. Now, that's a bit airy-fairy for a human being, but it's very important for a creative person. Because I think that we get down very quickly. And I think that we get winded and bogged down by process, we often get becalmed, and I think that we should stay alert, and our radar should be up to what might happen at any given moment. I think that that's quite important when I talk about this next campaign. We were working on a big beer campaign for a brand called Carling Black Label, and we had what we thought was this brilliant idea. We were going to sponsor a football match between Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates, massive social currency, hugely expensive for the client, really want to maximize the value, and boy, did we have a good idea. So what we're going to do is we're going to get one fan from each of the teams to coach the teams on the day. So we would have a competition, and one fan from each of the teams would sit on the bench and coach the team. And we were like, that's amazing. No one's ever done that before. And so we had this thing called a workshop, which for creative people is about as close as you can get to purgatory without actually dying. We were talking about this idea that the fan is going to win the competition, and he's going to get coach the team, and we're going to profile him, and we were very happy with that. But I think that it's never a good thing to consider anything finished, and luckily on that day we didn't, and we sort of forced ourselves through to see further possibility in the idea. And in that kind of moment of forced dissatisfaction, we gave something else a chance to surface. And I'm not really sure what happened. I'm not sure who said, well, why don't we let everyone coach the team, not just one fan? We have the power at our disposal through mobile and social to let everyone vote for the teams, to let everyone make the substitutions on the day. So we had this idea which would kind of change the rules of football. And we had to go back to the teams and say, well, this is what we want to do. And they were like, no, you can never do that. And we did, which was really cool.
South African men love two things: soccer and Carling Black Label. It's South Africa's biggest beer. And when soccer fans crack open a Carling Black Label and watch a game, chances are they're watching Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates. They're South Africa's biggest soccer clubs. But Carling Black Label noticed that the fans were getting more and more frustrated with the coaches. The fans believed they knew their soccer clubs better than the coaches. All South African fans needed was a chance to prove themselves. So Carling Black Label gave the power to South African fans by creating the Carling Black Label Cup. The fans could pick the players for their team. The fans could make a live substitution on the day of the game. For the first time in football history, the fans could literally be the coach. soccer fans immediately began voting for the players they wanted in the team by using the unique code under the cap of their Carling Black label. The only thing a fan needed to cast a vote and become a coach was the one thing South African fans already had: a cell phone. We designed and built a unique mobile platform that gave the fans a chance to vote for the players they wanted. After 7 weeks of intense voting, the teams were announced, as selected by South African fans. The campaign ignited fierce debate in the media between fans, purists, players, and journalists. Even the coaches got involved. One thing wasn't up for debate. South African soccer fans loved the idea. We received over 10.5 million votes in 7 weeks. Tickets for the historic match set new records, with over 85,000 fans attending and millions more watching on TV. Thousands of fans used their phone during the match to vote for the live substitution. Over 83 million rands worth of PR was generated for Carling Black Label. The game itself couldn't have played out better. The first Carling Black Label Cup was decided in a dramatic penalty shootout. And even though Orlando Pirates won and Kaizer Chiefs lost, South African fans all celebrated their own victory because, thanks to the Carling Black Label Cup, they finally had the chance to be the coach.
So I came across this phrase recently, and I thought it was really wonderful. And I like it because it describes like unexpected collisions that lead to ideas and accidents that sometimes deliver ideas to us. I found a photograph. Photographers often look for these kind of these accidents of visual poetry. So this is a man feeding some swans on a snowy riverbank. But I think that in the life of a creative person, or any creative person, this accidental poetry is really, really important. I think we have to stay super aware and look for it. I do worry that, like, with all these new distractions, our ability as creative people to pay attention to the world around us is shrinking. And I think that a lot of the times we miss these little moments of accidental poetry because our heads are in our phones. We don't look up and look around enough. We got headphones clamped to our ears. We don't hear enough. And I think that a lot of the stuff that we discover is on the web. So it's been put there by somebody else. It's been curated by somebody else. We didn't actually find it. And I think that we are suffering from a deficit of primary evidence. We need to get out there and kind of look at stuff a little bit more. And I think that so much of the really good work we see is based on someone seeing something that happened. And I think our natural state should be sharp and attentive as opposed to sort of fuzzy and distracted, which is kind of how we all are at the moment. So the next project is a little bit of sharp observation and rearranging. We have a brand called Blue Motion, which is within the Volkswagen stable. It's like this eco-friendly engine. It's about 10 to 15% more energy efficient than a normal Volkswagen engine. And it's such a great project. We knew the brief was coming in. We were waiting for the brief. And the brief came in and was like, do a magazine ad. We were like, that doesn't make sense to us at all. Magazine is a very inefficient medium. It's like killing trees, and you're doing it for this eco-efficient car. And we were busy moaning about how dumb that was when we realized that that was actually the idea.
Most magazines, along with all the ads in them, end up as trash, wasting a lot of paper. So when Volkswagen wanted a print campaign to promote Blue Motion, an eco-conscious range of cars, we asked ourselves, can a print ad help save paper, not waste it? Introducing the Blue Motion label. The Blue Motion label. A small ad that makes it easy for people to recycle their magazines. It gave many people the power to actively and easily participate in recycling for the first time, and instantly turned the existing network of old-fashioned postboxes into community recycle bins. We'll soon be rolling out Blue Motion labels to other cities across South Africa. The Blue Motion label, maybe the smallest Volkswagen ad we've ever made, has the potential to make the biggest difference.
So we did actually roll it out. We did nearly 800,000 consumer copies of magazines, where the first pilot was just subscriber copies of car magazines. So sometimes that kind of thing works out. So what's happened over the course of the past few years as we did more and more of these kind of integrated pieces is we were changing the way we approached our narrative structure when it came to all of our projects. And as I said, we stopped holding the story up in front of somebody and going, what do you think of this? And we kind of asked people to step into the stories, started to build stories like up and over and around people, so they were kind of in the work instead of just looking at the work. So put very simply, it's moving from storytelling to story making, which I suppose sounds like semantic bullshit, but it's the best description we could find. Obviously, part of what's fueled this is all the new technology that we have at our disposal, and we can turn things into games, and people can choose their own storylines and make up stories themselves. So obviously, involvement is much more active and rewarding and possible at the moment. But the other thing is we had to choose a new kind of creative person. So you have to be very vigilant with regards to who you're bringing into the studio at any one time, because they have to be ready to kind of approach this brave new world. And, you know, Gavin and I kind of had this, it was really his vision of who we should be hiring, and he kind of pulled it out of a movie, and he was like, Juno, we need Juno. Which is, I suppose, not to say that the ambition was to have a studio full of pregnant teenagers, but the kind of wise beyond a year's sharpness and smarts of this character is like really a spot-on reference for the kind of people that we're always looking for. The last thing I want to show you is another Volkswagen case study, and I think that as a client, they've given us an incredible amount of freedom. The more of these things we've done for them, the more they want us to do. We've created this kind of virtuous circle, which is lovely. And they asked us to try to do something to celebrate their 60th anniversary, which was about 3 or 4 years ago. And they didn't want us to do a television commercial because they couldn't afford it. But they said, do something digital so it becomes participatory. Don't try and say that when you're doing a talk. And so we got to thinking like, well, the interesting thing about Volkswagens, especially if you're celebrating the legacy of Volkswagen in South Africa, is how many Volkswagens there are on the road in South Africa. There's a whole bunch. And wouldn't it be amazing to tell the story of how many there are out there, how much they are part of a fabric of our society? So we kind of worked out a way to do that, which was someone else had done that already for us.
South Africans love Volkswagens. Since 1951, they've been one of the most loved and popular cars in the country. In fact, you'll probably find one on every street, road, highway, and byway. But how can we actually show people that thanks to German engineering, many of these cars are still on our roads today? Luckily for us, someone had gone to the trouble of photographing just about every single Volkswagen on the streets of South Africa. Google Street View. All the Volkswagens were there, the new ones, the old ones, the crazy ones. The hard part was finding them all. So we launched an online game using Google Street View technology and combined it with the sociability of Facebook. We called it Volkswagen Street Quest. We challenged Volkswagen Facebook fans to find and pin as many Volkswagens as possible in weekly quests. Players could navigate the streets of South Africa, pin Volkswagens, earn badges, find bonus challenges, and win a spot in the Street Quest Grand Final. The game was an instant success, with over 90,000 pins in the first week alone, and over 400,000 pins in total. Most people spent over 10 minutes playing the game, and we saw a 700% increase in engagement on the Volkswagen Facebook page. Even Google gave us a thumbs up. But the quest didn't end there. We flew the 4 winners of the weekly quest to Cape Town to compete in the grand final. But this time, it was Street Quest in real life. Loyal Street Quest fans that couldn't be there watched the grand final online. And when Street Quest finally came to an end, one thing was certain. There really are a lot of Volkswagens in South Africa.
So I was trying to find a sort of mildly profound, non-wanker way to end this thing. So I think that if I leave you with one thing, I think that I find there's two kinds of creative people, especially in advertising. There are these very cynical, dismissive, world-weary creative people who use hate in every second sentence and go, oh, that's been done, and I've seen that, and that's not original. And that's one way to be. And I think that some people think it's great to be cool and critical and all-knowing and kind of distant. But I think that there's another way to be. I think that you can be naive. And I think that you can be innocent. And I think that opens you up to possibility. I think that you can be excited and you can believe in the religion of ideas and walk into your office every day and know that you can have an idea that has the power to change things, to change everything. And I think that, for me, that's a much, much better way to be. Thanks very much. Thanks a lot.